The names of the two.
I'm Paul Green.
And I'm Angus Scott. This is London Tonight.
In the news, mystery as a man dies in a police cell. Plus, the Russian child saved from life in an orphanage thanks to London surgeons.
And in sport, he's ruled out of the next game, but Captain Croc tells us England can still win the World Cup.
First, an inquiry is underway into the death of a man at a police station in Kent. John Dring, who was 48, was found dead in his cell at Orpington. A post-mortem examination failed to find out what caused his death. Christopher Peacock has this report.
Mystery surrounds what happened behind bars in the police cells at Orpington that led to the death of a man in custody. It began as just another call to arrest a man on suspicion of being drunk and incapable. Police went to the avenue in Orpington, where he was detained just a few hundred yards from his home in nearby Tower Road. The man was taken to the police station and locked up in the cells. Scotland Yard say half-hourly checks were kept on him, but at 2:20 in the morning, some 2.5 hours after his arrest, he was examined by a police doctor and found to be dead. He was transferred to Queen Mary's Hospital at Sidcup, but how and why he died remains a mystery. A post-mortem carried out on 48-year-old John Dring from Orpington proved inconclusive. Further tests will now have to be made, and the Police Complaints Authority has been notified. At Orpington, this is Christopher Peacock for London Tonight.
Still to come on the programme. It's a dog's life for Lizzie as she loses the limelight, while this panto pooch must swap the stage for a cage. An astonishing array of weapons has been seized by armed police from a house in Surrey. They searched the house after stopping a van at a shopping centre in Hampshire. A police spokesman said tonight that the weapons appear to belong to an overactive enthusiast. Ken Hayes has this report.
This army assault rifle was found with 3 handguns in the van at Farnborough in Hampshire yesterday. The haul led police to search the loft and shed of a house at Ash in Surrey. There they found sawn-off shotguns, 4 knives and other weapons. Further searches at houses in Farnborough and on the Isle of Wight completed the haul, which included a substantial amount of ammunition. Police say the seizure was a result of a large-scale investigation. They don't believe there's any terrorist connection. 2 men were arrested and freed on bail. One was charged with 6 offences of possessing prohibited weapons, and he'll appear before magistrates in Aldershot in July. This is Ken Hayes for London Tonight.
Magistrates today gave police more time to question a man about the murder of a young backpacker who was stabbed in a North London street and another knife attack nearby. Louisa Crowe, a 23-year-old New Zealander, died after being stabbed repeatedly just yards from her home in Wood Green on Friday night. A second woman was attacked by a knife man outside Turnpike Lane Tube station yesterday morning but escaped injury. Miss Crowe had left the station minutes before she was attacked. A woman holidaymaker from northwest London died early today when fire broke out in her caravan. Anne Mason, who was 47, and her 76-year-old husband David had travelled from their home at Golders Green to the caravan site at Ripon in Yorkshire for the bank holiday weekend. He was treated for shock and the effects of breathing smoke. Firefighters spent the morning tackling a blaze at a North London hospital. Flames were spotted in a disused wing of the Whittington Hospital in Upper Holloway just before 9 o'clock. Patients and staff weren't in any danger and they weren't evacuated. An investigation's underway into how the fire started. In 12 hours' time, London's ambulance service will undergo a radical change in the way it operates. A massive reorganisation of shift patterns and the relocation of some crews are intended to speed up response times and to improve the quality of the service. The changes follow a warning from the Health Secretary, Virginia Bottomley, that the service must get better or face being broken up. Louise Bevan has this report.
In an emergency, minutes can mean the difference between life and death. It was the death of 11-year-old Nasima Begum last June after she waited 47 minutes for an ambulance, which forced the Wells inquiry and the fundamental changes which are now being made within the ambulance service to bring it up to scratch. The shake-up will see a major rehaul of staff working patterns and some relocating of crews to where they're needed most.
The recent history of the LAS hasn't made very good reading. This week is going to see the opportunity for us all, management and staff, to draw a line under that unfortunate period. We are now going to be able to justify the deployment of our resources hour by hour, day by day, throughout the year.
The 3 big health unions had initially rejected the new rosters, but after extended talks and some compromise, a fragile truce has been achieved.
There are crews that are unhappy with their shifts, and there are ambulance stations that are unhappy that they're losing vehicles. But on the whole, we've accepted this package as the best alternative.
The effects of the rehaul won't be felt overnight. Extra cash has paid for 300 new staff who will join the service by the autumn. By then it's hoped Londoners will begin to see the difference, quicker response times and ambulances in the right place when they're needed. In central London, this is Louise Bevan for London Tonight.
Reports today claim the future of Ealing Studios has been secured with an estimated £3 million from the National Lottery. The West London studios are where classic British films such as The Lavender Hill Mob and Passport to Pimlico were made. Ealing went into receivership last October. This report from Richard Gaisford.
The deal will once again open the debate over how proceeds from the lottery are actually spent. Following heavy criticism of the purchase of Churchill's private papers, this latest move to save the Ealing Film Studios has been seen as paying off a debt rather than doing something constructive. 8 months in receivership, the studios needed a cash lifeline, and it appears the lottery has given it, despite a number of private bidders wanting to develop the site. Now it'll be given over to the National Film and Television School, headed by Sir David Putnam. It's understood he worked hard to secure the deal, which will keep the studios up and running. They've been making movies at Ealing since 1907, but it's not known whether commercial activity will go hand in hand with its new educational role. This is Richard Gaisford for London Tonight.
And some news just in. An 18-month-old boy who underwent a heart transplant at Harefield Hospital in Middlesex has just died. Surgeons there gave him a new heart in a 6-hour operation. The youngster, who's from Liverpool, was initially recovering well, but his condition became critical overnight. And surgeons at Guy's Hospital in South London have rescued a Russian child from life in an orphanage. The youngster was born with a cleft palate, a deformity that had convinced his mother to give him up. But a successful operation has persuaded her to think again, as Kay Oliver now reports.
A tiny face bears the scars of surgery that will eventually lead to a normal childhood. Plastic surgeons at Guy's Hospital in London have successfully operated on 16-month-old Dima Bajanov, whose mother was forced to abandon him to an orphanage in Moscow. This was Dima before the operation. In Russia, the cleft palate he was born with is regarded as a terrible physical deformity, and parents are encouraged to hide such children away. Dima's fate was sealed until he was spotted by a British charity.
Well, if the lip and the palate weren't repaired, he would then be moved from a baby house into an internat, probably an internat for the mentally retarded, because the palate and lip would prevent him from speaking properly, and the Russian education system is very orally based, so he would be written off as being mentally retarded.
Now the stitches have been taken out and Dima will soon be heading home to live with his family.
Now he's had the operation, I will be able to go out for walks. I won't feel cut up inside. I'll feel much better. People won't stare at my child like they did before.
At just 16 months old, Dima will have no memory of the operation that changed his life, and there are plans to help others like him on their way to a brighter future. At Guy's Hospital, this is Kay Oliver for London Tonight.
Time now for the sports headlines with Angus Scott.
Thanks, Paul. England's rugby side are putting on a brave face less than 24 hours after they narrowly squeezed past Argentina in their World Cup opener. Skipper Will Carling is definitely out of Wednesday's match against Italy, but still believes his side can win the trophy. Trevor Harris has this report.
The morning after, the fright before. This is why Will Carling won't be facing the Italians in Durban. Intensive treatment on what's now known as the captain's table. Now it's a waiting game to see if he can make next weekend's match against the Samoans.
Well, I've had a chat with the doctor and it's badly bruised at the moment, so we don't really know. But just to wait maybe 24 hours till the bruising goes down. It's very sore. Hopefully, you know, it's not too serious, but we'll just have to see.
There may be other non-enforced changes too. Only the boot of Rob Andrew ensured an England victory over the Pumas. And while Carling's men were tryless, Argentina breached England's line twice. Hardly an encouraging sign for later encounters with the game's real superpowers. The media certainly weren't impressed. England were expected to win by at least 20 points. On this form, a quarter-final with Australia would be no contest. But the skipper is taking the philosophical approach.
And there's no doubt we will play far better than that. You know, you don't plan these things, but if you had hit almost top gear straight away, you'd find it a little bit hard to improve. We've probably hit bottom gear, so we've got a lot of improving to do, but I'm convinced we will. There's no doubt about that. You know, we will get an awful lot better on Wednesday, and we'll get a lot better on Saturday. You know, and that'll be ideal, so there's no panic, no need to panic here.
Even so, this is hardly a sight to inspire confidence. It'll take a massive effort from the whole squad to turn things round. Trevor Harris for London Tonight.
Damon Hill has lost more ground on the reigning world champion Michael Schumacher following this afternoon's Monaco Grand Prix. He's now 5 points behind the German in the Drivers' Championship, as Peter Jones reports.
Instant drama at one of the toughest circuits in Grand Prix racing. David Coulthard's collision with the two Ferrari drivers meant a restart. And as expected, the Monaco Grand Prix became an immediate tussle between Damon Hill and Michael Schumacher. Hill, aiming to become the first British winner of this race since Jackie Stewart 22 years ago, took control and began building a solid advantage. But a Hill pit stop changed the course of the race. Schumacher responded by gaining the initiative and then skillfully delayed his own fuel and tyre changes to establish himself as race leader. And a commanding lead it became too, with Hill diligently climbing back up the order, but too far behind to give his World Championship rival the slightest concern. So a comfortable victory for Schumacher by 34 seconds, his third win of the season. Gerhard Berger finished third behind Hill, with Johnny Herbert fourth. This is Peter Jones for London Tonight.
England's cricketers have put themselves in a promising position to clinch the deciding one-day series match against the West Indies at Lord's. A victory would win them the Texaco Trophy and also prove a huge morale boost for the Test series, which starts on Thursday week. After overnight rain, it was a difficult and disappointing start for England. Surrey's Alex Stewart out first with the score on just 12. Michael Atherton found the pace of Ambrose a real test. It took him 27 balls to get off the mark and was saved by a no-ball decision when on 29. But from then, it was Atherton who was in control, playing a masterly innings. He treated Ambrose and Bishop with disdain as he became only the third English cricketer to score a ton against the West Indies in a one-day international. His innings of 127 included 14 fours and this 6. He put on 92 with Middlesex's Mark Ramprakash, who ended up 29 not out in England's creditable 276 for 7. Two early wickets from Dominic Cork gave England the upper hand, first dismissing Williams, then Stewart helped remove the dangerous Brian Lara as the West Indies target increased to 6 and over. And had Ramprakash snapped up Adams on naught, the tourists could have been struggling still further. And just updating you with the T-score from Lord's, the West Indies 85 for 2 in reply to that big England total. They still need another 192 to win, and they're certainly running out of overs. Golf, and Nick Faldo is still right up there with the pace on the third day of the PGA Championship at Wentworth. This was the moment that really turned his round, a surprise birdie at the par 4th 13th. He's currently 6 under par for the tournament, 2 shots behind the leaders, Bernard Langer and Mark Mouland. And one last piece of sport, Huddersfield have beaten Bristol Rovers 2-1 in the playoff final in the second division, so they will play First Division football next season. That, of course, at Wembley. Paul.
Thanks, Angus. And finally, when an actor is between jobs, he's said to be resting, but one actor recently made unemployed from a show in North London will probably end up in a cage, as Vince Rogers now explains.
Lizzie the dog is enjoying her first ever taste of the limelight. She's treading the boards at the Lillian Bayliss Theatre in Islington. The show is an alternative pantomime called All I Want to Be is an Ugly Sister.
Wherever we go, whatever we do, we'll always go through it together.
But only a few weeks ago, Lizzie was here, an abandoned dog in the kennels of Battersea Dogs Home.
She just loves people, loves the attention. So yes, you could say star quality, because the audience is in here. And that's it. She's hopping around the stage going, yes, I'm on.
Lizzie is the happiest she's ever been when she's on the stage. But what she doesn't know is that there's bad news awaiting her in a backstage office.
Lizzie, the reason I've asked you here is to tell you that the show has come to the end of the run. And I'm afraid we don't need you anymore. You're out of a job.
Out of work, yes. Out of work, Lizzie. What are you going to think of that? I think she actually really enjoys it, so it might be a bit of a shock.
And so, Lizzie's acting career is at an end. It's back to Battersea Dogs Home for her to swap the stage for a cage. This is Vince Rogers for London Tonight.
The dog looking for a meaty roll. That's the news and sport today. We're back tomorrow at 5:45. Have a very good bank holiday. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Hello, I hope you managed to dodge some of the afternoon showers. By tonight, those showers will begin to die out, leaving us with an evening that's dry, temperatures no lower than 9 Celsius, and that's 48 Fahrenheit. If you're planning on doing anything for bank holiday, get it done in the morning. Plenty of sunshine around then. By the afternoon, cloud bubbling up, and we could see some showers too. Top temperatures around about 19 Celsius, and if you do get hit by a shower tomorrow, it's going to be pretty heavy, but won't last for too long. Coming up shortly, ITN News. Here's the summary.
Tonight on LWT, one of Catherine Cookson's most popular novels, The Dwelling Place.
What's she like? The young one. What's she like?
But the course of love may not run smoothly.
The child is none of mine.
The sins of the son
I'll make him pay for this, if it's the last thing I do.
can't be put right with money alone.
I want to see that child.
Catherine Cookson's The Dwelling Place, tonight 7:30.
Without a choreographer, there is no ballet. Without Hellmann's, there is no salad. Original, creamy smooth Hellmann's. The only mayonnaise.
It's all worked out beautifully with the new Laguna.
Head for Texas this weekend and help yourself to the best buys. You'll find great offers all around the store. Like free charcoal with every barbecue over £30. 5 litres of white Texas masonry paint. Buy 2, get 1 extra free. Save £10 on this pair of reclining patio chairs. These 6 litres of Texas emulsion paint for the price of 5. Best buys for all around your home.
Best buys, Texas.
Good morning.
Good morning. Only UPS guarantees next day express delivery next morning.
Buenos dias.
To both Europe and America, or your money back.
Good morning.
Next day to major cities in Europe, guaranteed next morning.
Bonjour.
Even next day to most of America, guaranteed by 10:30 next morning.
Morning.
You see, in our language, next day means next morning.
Buongiorno, signora.
UPS, as sure as taking it there yourself.
Making international calls used to be a bit of a palaver. Because first of all, you needed one of these.
What number do you require, please?
An operator this end. And then you needed one of those.
Go ahead, caller. You have your connection.
An operator that end. Nowadays, you just need one of these. International direct dialing makes ringing your grandson in Australia as easy as ringing your brother in Bradford.
Hello?
Peter? It's Granny.
I just wondered how it went at the dentist.
Great, Granny. No problem.
Another thing, international charges have never been lower.
Granny, did they have tooth fairies in England too?
I can't help it out on that one. It's good to talk.
Even the rich could do with the occasional change of fortune. But you can bet your bottom dollar that where their investments and mortgages are concerned, they wouldn't change a thing. Cheltenham and Gloucester run to make you richer.
This is the Governor, Norman. Miss Hewitt.
In prison.
know about you.
No one
I'm onto you.
is above the law.
I just can't deal with him.
A VP wing does not only contain sex offenders.
No, I ain't already nuts. Let's prove it. We'll all the kangaroo court right here.
As her superiors approach,
Did you have any prior warning that they were coming?
has the governor lost control?
So this court's now in session.
Janet McTeer is the governor, tonight at 9.
You're watching LWT, your weekend ITV. Now we go over to the studios of ITN for the latest news.
Good evening. This is the news from ITN. The headlines. Captured. British soldiers are taken hostage by the Serbs. And Thatcher says Tony Blair is formidable. 33 British soldiers have been taken hostage by Bosnian Serbs. The men are from the Royal Welsh Fusiliers. They were captured in the UN-declared safe zone of Gorazde in eastern Bosnia. Some of the British troops escaped as the Bosnian Serbs stormed 8 UN observation posts. Within the hour, John Major will be holding an emergency meeting at Downing Street. Tension has risen rapidly today. The Bosnian foreign minister has been killed. 8 more Canadian UN soldiers taken hostage, and the town of Tuzla shelled again.
In the present crisis, it was only a matter of when. There are now over 3,500 British troops in Bosnia, monitoring the so-called UN safe zones and other areas of potential confrontation. Now, with the Serbs grabbing anyone they can, British soldiers in isolated observation posts, OPs, were not likely to escape capture for long.
A number of OPs, 8 of them, in the north, northeast and the east of Gorazde town itself, were approached by the Bosnian Serb army, threatened, and immediately afterwards, the OPs endeavoured to extricate themselves from their isolated situation. A number of OPs managed to make it into safety, a number didn't. This is wholly unacceptable behaviour on the part of the Bosnian Serb army. We demand that they're released unconditionally, immediately. Whilst they're being held, they should be treated properly, not held as hostage, not held as human shields, and certainly not threatened with weapons, as a number have been already.
The Prime Minister cut short his Whitsun holiday for an emergency meeting this evening with his military commanders and his Defence Secretary. The hostage crisis could now well redetermine Britain's future role in Bosnia. On watch in the Adriatic, HMS Illustrious is close enough to the coast to help evacuate British troops if when the call comes. The carrier is expected to be supported by other ships from other nations within the next few days. The French carrier Foch is on its way from Toulon with its complement of fighter bombers and a contingent of ground attack troops, emphasizing the current dilemma, fight on or get out. The USS Roosevelt is also on station. Its aircraft have already been used in the NATO bombing of Serb positions. It's been the American belief that more bombing, not less, is needed to bring the Serbs to order. But then the Americans do not have men in Bosnia, and it is the bombing that's provoked the Serbs into taking hostages in retaliation. These men are paying the price for trying to remain neutral on the ground while NATO is bombing the Serbs from the air. The Serbs know as long as they keep the hostages, they hold the trump card. Their fate is with the UN, who must now quickly decide whether to toughen its mandate.
We are at a very critical stage, and it could be described as state of crisis, but we will persist. And as I told you, I was impressed by the 40-odd troop contributing countries and the Security Council members that we met with this morning. They are all standing firm, and we are not intimidated by these tactics.
The death today of the Bosnian foreign minister shot down over Bihać now adds yet another crisis to a war that seems to have no way of ending.
Lady Thatcher has caused more problems for John Major today. In an interview in the Sunday Times, she's described Tony Blair as probably the most formidable Labour leader for 30 years.
Lady Thatcher's praise for Tony Blair contrasts sharply with her criticisms last week of the Prime Minister. She says Mr Blair believes in what he says, adding that he's the best leader Labour have had for more than 30 years. He's probably the most formidable leader we've had since Hugh Gaitskell, she told the Sunday Times. But Lady Thatcher also seeks to draw a distinction between Mr Blair, who she says isn't really a socialist, and the rest of the Labour front bench. And one of her former senior staff warns too much is being read into her words.
She hasn't told anybody to vote.
labour, and she's not likely to do. Indeed, if you read carefully all that's been published today, she has set out a programme which she thinks could, a European programme, which she thinks could win the election for the Tories.
Lady Thatcher appears to have been a recent convert to Mr Blair's effectiveness. Around the time he made public his admiration for her determination, though not her policies, she told close friends that she didn't admire him. But whatever the reason for her change of mind, and whatever her differences with Mr Major, Lady Thatcher's making clear she wants to see the Conservatives win the next election.
Up to 2,500 people are feared dead after an earthquake on a remote island in Russia's Far East. The TASS news agency says the quake has virtually destroyed a town on the island of Sakhalin.
The Russian authorities are now describing the earthquake as devastating and a calamity. The Deputy Prime Minister Oleg Soskovets says that it could be Russia's worst ever. The quake, measured at 7.5 on the Richter scale, hit the far eastern island of Sakhalin during the night local time. It largely destroyed the small oil-producing town of Neftogorsk, which is some 4,000 miles east of Moscow. Some 19 apartment blocks built of prefabricated components apparently collapsed, and at least 2,500 people are trapped in the rubble. More than 100 people have so far been evacuated for medical treatment, but rescue efforts are being hampered by thick fog. The Russian Emergencies Ministry has sent one aircraft carrying relief supplies and specially trained personnel, and more aid will doubtless be sent as the scale of the disaster becomes clear. Julian Mannion, ITN, Moscow.
One man drowned and another is still missing after their speedboat capsized in heavy seas off the North Devon coast. It happened near the mouth of the River Avon. An RAF rescue helicopter picked up the dead man and a search is still going on for his companion. The British Legion pensioners killed when their coach crashed on the M4 motorway have been remembered at a special church service. 12 people were killed in the accident and 6 more are still in hospital.
The flag was flying at half-mast at the Royal British Legion building as a special service was held in the nearby Priory Church. It had been planned as a civic service to mark the election of a new mayor who took office on the day of the crash. Today, the prayers were for those who died on their way home from a Legion outing to Wales. 12 pensioners lost their lives after their coach veered off the motorway. A few flowers now mark the crash site. 6 of the coach's elderly passengers are still being treated in hospital.
Somehow, it is difficult to rejoice and give thanks to God at a time when the community of Christchurch has been shocked by the horrific accident.
Today, as they prayed for the victims, it was announced that a special memorial fund has been set up. James Bayes, ITN, Christchurch.
Cricket. The West Indies are chasing another high English total in the Texaco Trophy decider at Lord's. The England captain, Mike Atherton, made his first ever century in a one-day international, getting 127 of England's total of 276 for 7. The West Indies scored steadily, but Brian Lara made just 11 before he was caught by Stewart off Cork. A short time ago, the West Indies were on 112 for 3 off 30 overs. Motor racing, and Michael Schumacher has won the Monaco Grand Prix. Damon Hill, who started the race in pole position, came second. The race had to be restarted after a 7-car pile-up at the first corner, involving the British driver David Coulthard.
Barely seconds into the race, David Coulthard's Williams collided in spectacular style with both Ferraris at the first corner. All restarted in spare cars, Damon Hill in pole position, apparently unaffected by the halt, opening up an early lead. His father Graham dominated the Monaco streets in the 60s, winning 5 times. Damon was determined to make it 6 for the Hill family. Coulthard was soon forced to retire when his gearbox failed, and Hill dropped to third after the first of 2 pit stops. Schumacher taking the lead on lap 25, the German's one-stop tactic proving decisive. Hill moved up when second-place Jean Alesi's Ferrari collided with Martin Brundle, but there was little he could do to catch the Benetton, which took the checkered flag 23 seconds in front and extending Schumacher's narrow lead in the World Championship. Hill second in the race, with Britain's Johnny Herbert 4th and Mark Blundell coming 5th.
That's all for now. I'll be back with the late news at 11:15. Till then, goodbye.
Hello again. Well, one look at today's radar picture, that reminds us that we're at the end of yet another showery day today. There have been showers just about over the whole country, but they have been most predominant in the northwest. That's the way it's looking again for tomorrow. There's more unsettled weather, hence more showers, and once again, they're going to be most defined in the north and the west. Now, first thing tomorrow morning, there's some quite prolonged showers in the west of Scotland. Inland, though, and to the east, it's drier and it's brighter. Towards the afternoon, the showers are becoming more widespread in other parts of the country, particularly inland. There are some parts, though, where it's going to be drier and sunnier, and that's most predominant along the southern and western coasts. It's in the south, too, where we'll find the best of the temperatures, the high there 19, but it is going to be quite breezy, and that's bringing temperatures down a little to more like 16 or 17.
Sponsored by